Well, good evening, everybody. I guess I'll call this take two or round two. So thank you all again for coming out this evening. I hope you all got home safely. I know the drive home, I saw lots of trees down, so I certainly hope everybody got home safely. And of course, we apologize. I'm not going to speak about the weather because last time that was immediately plunged us into darkness, so I'm just going to be very broad. Again, thank you all so much for coming and your interest. I wanted to just tell you right now, we have several of our board members here. We have Mr. Hirons, Ms. Egan, Mr. Conley, Ms. Helium, Ms. Decatur. So we are here. Mr. McCosker may be on his way. I don't know how bad traffic, well, it was bad where I was coming from. So what the format will be this evening is we're going to we will open with Dr. Benson's going to give us just sort of an overview of the options that have been discussed so far or what came out of our work session. Then at that time, the board members are going to stay down here. Then when he completes that, we will, the board members are going to go up onto the stage. They will raise that, and then we will go over, we'll have some board member comments, then we will go over the procedure for the evening. Again, it is going to be the 3-minute rule, so I'll go over that then. And we will be in listening mode tonight. It is not going to be a dialogue. It is for us to listen and to hear what you have to say, but there'll be more about that later. So I am going to start off with bringing Dr. Benson, our superintendent, up to talk about where we are right now.
So what a difference a day makes, right? And I told folks it would not be funny for somebody to turn the lights off just to see what would happen. So that will not happen. So I'm going to go through this very quickly, and basically I just want to summarize the options that the board is exploring at this point, and then we're going to go right into an opportunity for public comment. Okay? So let me grab my clicker here. So we're going to revisit just a little bit of the enrollment forecast, the options that the board worked on, and actually 2 of those options are the same. You probably realize that option 2 and option 5, I think, are the same. The board hasn't taken any action to move anything off the plate, so we left them in there as is. And then the schedule moving forward, because I think there has been some confusion that there may be an impression that the board would take action at the first meeting of in March, which is March 14th. That is for information, whatever the board wants to do in terms of what of these options they might want to move forward or any changes they might want to make in the options. It would be March 28th before we would expect the board to take action on any of these options. So you all have seen this before, I think most of you in some context, whether it was in a town hall meeting or something that you've pulled off the web. This is what we call our stoplight chart, and it just looks at projected growth for our high schools, where we are currently, what kind of capacity we have in the schools, and at what point would we expect to see some challenges there. And you can see very clearly that Colonial Forge is the school that looks to have some challenges in terms of number of students in not too many years out. And here are our attendance zones. You might look at that and say, well, it seems kind of odd. We've got one that looks like it's really small, and if you look at that northern division there, which is North Stafford, it's very dense in that area. Okay, and then we've got other parts of the county that are more rural in nature and spread out, and as such, the attendance zone is much larger. And then zooming in on Colonial Forge, because that's what we're here to talk about. Okay, and it is it's pretty massive, and it spans a fair amount of real estate within the county. So option 1, okay. And I'm not going to read through all of these things. They're all available on the web. But option 1, the APUs that are under consideration, the ones that are in the blue are the ones that the board is considering moving to Mountain View. Green is to Stafford High, and then the red are to North Stafford High School. Okay, so those are the APUs. And then if you take a look at what that would mean in terms of the map. Okay, there's where we would land if that was the option that the board would consider moving forward. In the bottom right hand of the image here, you see the schools, what their capacity will be, and then what we project as enrollment in 2020 and 2021 school year, and the percentage of the capacity that would be utilized in the event that we had that number of students enrolled at school in that year. Option 2. Okay, just take a look at that a second. The APUs, Mountain View, Stafford High School, North Stafford High School. And then that's what it would look like in terms of the map. You take a look at the changes in the percentages, particularly in the bottom right-hand corner of the image. Okay, option 3. Same thing. Blue to Mountain View, green to Stafford High, and red to North Stafford. Okay, what does that mean in terms of the map? And then again, if you look, and it's kind of hard to see, I guess, if you're sitting over on this side of the auditorium, what those percentages are in the bottom right corner there, based upon those projections. And I'm too far away from wherever that machine is. There we go. Okay. So there's option 4. Take a few seconds to take a look at that. All right, what would that look like on the map? And then the projected percentage of capacity in the bottom right-hand corner. Option 5, which is the same as option 2. Option 6. And the map for option 6. Percentages again in the bottom right-hand corner. And the last option, option 7. And the map. Okay, schedule. So we have our public hearing, which is now March 2nd, given our delay last night, given the issue with that transformer on fire. And we'll expect then this to go to the board for information again on the 14th, as I said earlier. Action potentially by the board then on March 28th, and then you can see the rest of it, the student family notification and the implementation. So with that, we are really here this evening to get input and hear what you have to say as a part of this public hearing. So we're going to turn off the presentation and have board members, pardon? I'm sorry. Oh, I'll hold for just a second. Yes, I will. We got notes. We got to take notes, okay? And then we're going to have board members move on up to the stage, and we'll start the process for public hearing portion of this evening.
All right, well, again, welcome everybody. Good evening. We are here in our listening mode. I'm going to first allow board members to make comments before I go over exactly how we will run through everything. Board members may or may not have comments, but anybody would like to start us off? Mr. Conley, do you want to start us or no? You have to figure out your...
Yeah, let's figure this out.
Okay. Ms. Egan, do you want to start us? Okay.
Good evening. I'm sure many of you have seen my post if you're following on Facebook, or at least heard about it. I'm going to read to you not what I wrote yesterday, but in response to some feedback that I've gotten. So while many of you in this room have been very passionate about this issue, most of you have remained respectful and have kept to the issues at hand, and I want to thank you for that. Someone as recently as today, in a written correspondence, called my objectivity into question. I was misquoted and called angry. Any of my constituents, any of our staff, our administrators, and any of our students that know me know that I'm a very reasonable woman. As I sat through redistricting 3 years ago, I had to sit through the same, sometimes very hurtful commentary about how the receiving school in the middle school redistricting, Stafford Middle, was less than stellar enough for the students who were being looked at from some of the other communities on the other side of 95. That didn't sit well with a lot of people. That was insulting to existing students, to our teachers, to our administrators, and to the parents who were already sending their children there, to include myself. I was new to the board when I had to preside over that, and I held my tongue as I recently sat through several of the public comment periods over the past several weeks. I heard some of the same rhetoric that I had to endure 3 years ago. I will listen to all of your concerns, but I will repeat what I posted on my Facebook page last night about making disparaging comments about North Stafford High School in order to make your point. A school is made up of teachers, students, and staff who put their blood, sweat, and tears to make an educational community that they enjoy. I will not, and I'm not required to sit up here to allow anyone, whether they're Mr. Connolly's district folks or even my own constituents, to disparage any of our schools, and I won't. So I'm sure that there are at least a few people on this stage right now that feel the same way that I do, and I know that there are people in this audience that feel the way that I do. I've gotten several pieces of communication today that said, we want to stick to the issues at hand, we don't want to disparage anybody, so thank you for that, I really appreciate that. And specifically for the Garrisonville folks that emailed me today, thank you as well. So let's have a good public hearing.
I just want Ms. Egan to know that she's not alone on her thoughts and her concerns. She's exactly right. All schools in Stafford County, in my opinion, are great schools. And what makes a great school are the people that fill those buildings, the teachers, the parents, the students. And I, too, was dismayed over the several comments that have been made over the last several weeks about disparaging North Stafford High School. And this is somebody from who represents Stafford High School, leads blue and yellow. You know, it's not easy for an Indian to say that, but to support our Wolverines, but we must do that, no matter if we're Indians, Blackhawks, Wolverines, Eagles, or Wildcats. We're Stafford County, and we have great schools.
Any other board comments?
Yeah, I'll say something.
Mr. Conley.
I want to thank you all again out for coming. And, you know, it's unfortunate with the weather because I know it looks like we have a little smaller crowd than we did last night. Last night it was pretty packed, and so it's unfortunate that we had to postpone this. But thank you all for coming. And, you know, as most of you know, I've been on this board since December, and so this has been a learning experience for me. And, you know, I sit up here as a board member, but, you know, as a parent, as a voter. And a lot of you have come up and you have said, you know, I didn't move here to get redistricted, or I didn't move here for this or that. I understand that. You know, I didn't move to Stafford to watch it become Dale City. And it's becoming Dale City. And so I would just encourage you all to take the energy that you have here tonight and the energy that was here last night and keep it up, because we as the board are held accountable, and you all should be here and you should be telling us what you think. But I would also just encourage you to keep that up with your other elected officials as well, because we have a growth problem. And I don't care what anyone says, we have a growth problem. And that is correlated with what we're dealing with tonight. So hold us accountable, hold everyone accountable, hold your neighbors accountable, but just stay engaged, okay, because it is important.
Looks like we're speaking into an open wire. I too want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I think it is extremely important that this board hear from you as to your thoughts about the redistricting, not as was mentioned to disparage schools, and I don't think anybody really intends to do that. I think that this is a very personal, very emotional subject that we're on. This is your families, this is your children, this is your neighborhood. So it is important that the board members hear from you, from your neighbors. You have the hearing this evening and the next 2 meetings of the school board. You can either email us, you can call us, you can come and speak at our meetings, but we need to hear from you. Obviously, we're not going to be able to make a decision that makes everyone happy unless there was some way we could just make Forge larger. It's always an extremely difficult decision, and there's a lot of factors, there's a lot of variables, there's information that we still don't have, there's numbers that we've asked for that came up on the work session, and I understand that'll be forthcoming, later this week, because there's a lot of factors that are going to go into this. And please be assured that we are not looking at your children as numbers. This is always something that has to be taken into consideration. Fortunately, this board, unlike other boards that I've worked with on redistricting, is looking at siblings being able to stay at the school and even discussing siblings of siblings in the school. So. And that's a result of what we've heard from you, the community. So please make your thoughts known to the board. You have from now until March 28th when that decision is set for a vote. And thank you for coming out on a second night to be here for us. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Dwayne McOsker, George Washington District. Hey, thanks for coming out. Yeah, that's right. And thanks for coming out. And even though I'm down there with the cows and the horses. Yeah, and down at South Stafford with Scott Hirons. I know Scott and I and many folks here. I got 4 kids in the system. Senior, junior, 5th grade, 4th grade, and this is not a pleasant. This is not a pleasant. It's not a pleasant redistricting. It's, God forbid, my school would get split up, right? My neighborhood, I'd be very upset. So I echo Mr. Connolly's comments. I think we need to do a better job as a school board to, you drop a 3,000 home plot, you're not guaranteed anything. We need to do the redistricting right there, so we're not having people fill in and then splitting it up from there 5 years down the road. So we've got some work to do on our end in the demographics and the planning. But thanks for coming out. I'm really looking forward to hear what you have to say, and let's get to it.
I'll just make some brief comments. Jamie. You have one?
I have one. I don't know if I know how to use it. Sorry, Jamie. That's okay. Down to the do I let it go? Yep, let it go. I'm not generally technologically. Hi, there it is. Hey guys, thanks for coming out tonight. I wasn't planning on making any opening comments because I think it's more important we just get to hearing you guys, but I just felt compelled to tell you a quick story. I moved here in 2004 from Nokesville, Virginia. And when I moved here to be closer to my all-star cheerleading squad. My parents, I don't know what they were thinking, but they literally picked up, sold their house, and moved to Stafford, Virginia for me to attend a school that was closer to my all-star cheerleading squad and for me to cheer for a better high school, bigger high school, so that I could have more opportunities. When I moved here, I toured 3 high schools. I toured Brook Point, I toured Colonial Forge, and I toured North Stafford. I chose North Stafford, and my parents chose it as well with me because we felt just that it was a warm, inviting environment. The teachers there were fantastic. The cheerleading squad there was #1 at the time. And I don't really know where they're ranked anymore right now, but it's an amazing school. And so I just want to reassure you guys that, we've got to move some people. And, wherever you end up going, I echo the rest of the board up here. Stafford County has some amazing schools, and North Stafford is right up there with them. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for coming out, guys. I look forward to a very productive meeting, and I'm hope to hear some new and enlightening information this evening.
So I won't repeat what my fellow board members said, but I will just say, we're not just a great school district, we're a great county. We're full of great people, whether we have kids in the schools, whether we have kids who have graduated from the schools, whether we have kids going to be coming to the schools, which Mrs. Decatur is the one on our board who has somebody who's, I think, class of like 2035. So putting in that investment now. We are a great community. I've seen the best of our community in everything. Redistricting is hard. It's not something that most of us want to get on the school board to do. However, it is a reality. We are growing, and we are going to need. There is some legislation for those who were at my community meeting. I told you a little bit about how proffers are going to work in the future, and they are somewhat tied to capacity. That is going to also dictate for us of how we need to look at capacity and how we share it. So there is a lot of things going on with regard to that. But please know, we love all of our students, and we will make sure they are taken care of. Whether they move, whether they don't move. We will be working with them if they transition or whether they don't. We have a lot of dedicated people who want your children to succeed. So with that, this evening, it will be 3 minutes for speakers. We will have microphones, as you can see, on both sides. I'm going to start with the lists that I have of people who have signed up. It doesn't limit, other people can't speak, but I will start with those. I will read off about 5 names. I will say to this side for people to line up there. I will also do another 5 names to line up over here so we can keep it moving. When we get down to like that 4th person, I'll call the next 5 names just so we can keep that moving for the evening. So let me just give the standard opening, but I just wanted to give you all sort of, that's how it will work. So speakers shall identify themselves by name, address, and district, and organizational affiliation if you represent an organization. 3 minutes will be allotted to all speakers. Our clerk will be helping me with the time. Once your time has expired, I will give about 5 seconds to wrap up, but we want to be cognizant of the time for all of our speakers, that 3 minutes. The timer will indicate when 1 minute remains. No, it won't. And Ms. Uring will help me know when the 3 minutes. A citizen's comment which is profane, abusive, or which threatens immediate physical harm shall be ruled out of order by me. Please remember that the school board members will not be answering any questions during this public hearing. It's not a dialogue, it is for us really to listen. We may take those questions and respond to them later in a generic fashion, but we won't be doing an exchange this evening. So with that, I will start on my left, I guess your right, and let me name off 5 people, and I will bring you all forward. Brian Townsend, Noel Briggs, Jason Moore, Kaylin Pounders, and Joan Tracy. Those will be to the left. And then on my right-hand side, to your left, Sharice Taylor, Neil Treader, Rachel Miller, Ellen Vanderveer, and and Heather Mitchell. If we could start there. Come on forward. You can go in whichever order, but I thought that would work the best.
There you go.
I am, my first point, thank you for having this. I wanted to say that as our school board that, again, you stated it tonight, but just reminding you that you're here. I am from North Nation, by the way. For all of our kids, no matter where they live. I wonder why we haven't also, with the growth that we have, had the goal to increase our numbers in the STAT program and the CGS program. That also helps lead to parity. We keep the numbers small every year, but we're still growing. And At North Stafford, we have the STAT program, we have Governor's School, we have dual enrollment, we have CTE, we have EMT, we have CNA. We have the honors classes, the AP classes, the DE classes. But with the numbers increasing, my concern is, how is that fair with 275 kids coming to our school? Why are we not considering increasing those numbers? Because we also receive students from Mountain View that come to Governor's School as well. So to me, for our kids, that kind of shrinks that pool of opportunity for them. We have AP scholars. We don't hear much about that, but I think all of our schools have them, and we should give them that recognition. I'm a mom of 4, and again, your job is to help keep our school division great. Dr. Benson, I think you're doing an awesome job and in leadership. We have to remember that this public input is great, but your clarity of purpose and what you're charged to do for our kids should determine the best for all of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian Townsend. I live in the Embry Mill neighborhood.
Why don't you pull that up just a little bit, just in case?
Much better?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian Townsend, and I live in the Embry Mill neighborhood, Garrisonville district. I'll be brief. I know you're going to hear a lot of information tonight. I just want to reiterate a few key points. Embry Mill is a mile and a half away from where you're sitting. You'll indulge me for a minute. Just visualize this trip to Embry Mill. We're going to turn right out of the parking lot here. We'll make a couple curves through Courthouse Road. And in 1 mile, the road's going to open up. And you're going to make a left-hand turn onto Mine Road, and you've reached Embry Mill. Put that further in perspective. You want to do a 5K from Colonial Forge. You can run to Embry Mill and back, and you still haven't accomplished a 5K. We're very close. You're not going to redistrict the homes immediately around this school for one reason, proximity. So I would ask that you use the same factor when you consider the south portion of Embry Mill, proximity. In addition, we're talking about a small percentage of students that would be impacted right now. Approximately 45, 46 students from Embry Mill make up or come to Colonial Forge. The next 4 years, under your projections, we're talking about 102, 103 students. That's not the significant impact that you're looking for. There's no immediate relief there. In addition, the routes and the transportation costs are easy from Embry Mill to Colonial Forge. Literally, we're 1.5 miles away. My hope, again, I have to make this quick, my hope is that you're not persuaded by emotion, but common sense. The factors I've given you are all factors in School Board Policy 1403, and they're the reason why Embry Mill, at least the south portion of Embry Mill, should not be moved. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. I'm Neil Maltretter. I live in the Amy Clay subdivision, APU 163. I want to thank the school board and the school board staff for hosting this meeting, as well as the others in February. It's given my wife and I an opportunity to educate ourselves about the issue and to get involved with our community, to come up with what we feel are solid suggestions. I'm holding 280 signatures from the petition APU 163 has circulated. That's 280 of our neighbors and friends. When we knocked on the doors that were answered by middle schoolers and high schoolers, their eyes lit up, huge, and they said, finally, this nightmare for us will be over. They'd run to their parents and implore them to sign it. I saw it with my own eyes. It was incredible. While there's no perfect solution at this point, I personally feel strongly that an option 8 would be to wait and make changes until the effects of a fast-track high school number 6 in the South is evaluated for school year 2022 and 23. This petition covers most of the following points. Number 1, move the least number of students. We all feel like we have a great school in Colonial Forge, which is what we hope to see our kids go to. Number 2, maintain feeder patterns. The kids who currently go to H.H. Poole to attend North Stafford, neighborhoods who attend Margaret Brent Elementary to attend Mountain View High School. Number 3, move the houses in neighborhoods that aren't here yet or aren't as established as those in APU 163. Number 4 would be safety. For APU 163, we would take Walpole to Courthouse. That's the safest way to get to any high school in this area for us. Number 5, keep the most schools in any move green. In the 2020 and 2021 projections, this would be options 2 or 5. If Colonial School is the most desirable, which I think everybody here feels that it is, send the most kids possible to Colonial Forge. Don't turn it green, keep it yellow, which would eliminate options 1, 3, and 6. Again, I have part of the signatures for the petition that APU 163 circulated. That's 280 signatures asking to stay in Colonial Forge. Thank you.
For anybody who does have comments that they have written comments, our clerk obviously is sitting straight up front. When you conclude your comments or you have anything like petitions, anything like that, please move forward to hand them to Ms. Euring, and she will be circulating them to the board.
Hi, my name is Kaylin Pounders. I live in Berkshire, and I'm currently an 8th grader at Rodney Thompson Middle School. For now, my current high school will be Colonial Forge. I'm asking for the school board to please not move our neighborhood to another school. We will be separated from our friends, and I personally will be separated from my sister, who will be a senior at Colonial Forge. My sisters and I are what you would call a military brats. I have an older sister and a younger sister, and throughout our school years, I've had at least one of them in the same school as me. If this redistricting happens in my neighborhood, I would not have my friends nor my sisters, and I'm asking for you to do your best that my neighborhood does not have to move schools. This is supposed to be an exciting year and time of my life, but this is not fun. This is upsetting, and I'm sure I speak for most of the students that are being affected by this. We should have been included in this process. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Hi, I'm Noelle Briggs, and I live in the Amy Clay District, and I'm in the Rock Hill District. I live in the Amy Clay neighborhood that's in the Rock Hill District. And I feel really unprepared because everyone has notes and everything, but I'm just going to wing it. And at the end of the day, you can look at numbers, and you can say, oh, we can keep Amy Clay yellow, but from the eyes of a Forge student, I sat on a bus one day, and my bus was 10 minutes late, and I was like, hey, where is it? Turns out one of the buses were out of commission, one of the bus drivers were gone, whatever it was. They picked up all of the extra stops in Austin Ridge, and then by the time that we got through 2 out of about 5 or 6 stops at Amy Clay, kids were sitting in each other's laps and squatting in the seats trying to hold on before we got to school. And it was scary because, like, if we had crashed, what would have happened, you know? If they came to too hard of a stop, kids would jerk forward, and people could end up getting hurt, and that's scary to me. And then we have full desks. My English class has 30 kids in it. There are 30 desks. So if someone moves in, got to bring up a desk, and that takes time out of instructional time. And at the end of the day, this redistricting needs to happen. And I guess what my point is, we can't hold this off no matter how much you want to do that. And to address the crowd, I can't move this because I don't want to like mess it up or anything. I hear so many like smarmy comments from people sitting down, and I'm sure you have your best personal interest at heart, but these people are a part of our community too, and it's so important to remember that. You can't just separate yourself because, oh, they're in a higher position, they're making the decisions, so that means that they're like in a different situation, but they're not. They're still real people with families. I think it's so important to remember that. And to get to my basic point, I just want you to reconsider the grandfathering siblings thing, because from my last thing, I don't remember if Miss Patricia Healy or Miss Dr. Benson remember, I pleaded the case that my brother is, again, he's going to be a rising freshman and I am going to be a rising junior. And of course it doesn't really affect me, but it affects my family, and that will be divided. And from then, I've realized, like, it was just like a light bulb moment. I was like, it's like gonna be like a stranger living in my house, because I'm gonna have to boo him at football games whenever there's a spirit week. I'm gonna be like, yeah, you're not a part of that. And then whenever my brother started going to Thompson, I think I was an 8th grader at the time, I was able to talk to him about, like, oh, this teacher, you know, they give a lot of homework, but I'll help you through it, and I could help him through that. But now it's just gonna be so hard, because I feel like my brother and I don't get along all the time, but he's, like, obviously no siblings ever do. But whenever we do have those bonding moments, it's so special and meaningful, and it creates some of the best memories. And to know that I will never participate in Adopt a Senior Day, I'll never be able to make fun of him at homecoming. I'm sorry. I just feel like I'm being robbed of memories, and it's just hurtful. And I just want you to reconsider the siblings clause, because it just means so much to me, and I don't want my family divided. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Joan Tracy. We're Autumn Ridge. Long ago and far away, I was a student. We didn't have computers or paper and pencil then, but then I was a teacher, certified 6 through 14. Then I was a mother. During those mother years, we were military and moved a lot. It's interesting that the human brain does not mature until the late 20s. My husband can probably tell you more. He's got the major and master's in psychology. But I can tell you from experience as a teacher, as a student, a teacher, and a mother, that students have a difficult time concentrating on the task at hand in the classroom and the subject matter, let alone having to make changes between schools and their friends and who's going here and who's going there. It's very traumatic. I just want to make sure that this board takes that into consideration so that continuous redistricting does not have to occur. Now, I know you're not answering questions, but we see this little clapper hanging down here that's yellow. A lot of travel time between that one and Colonial Forge. Is that where the new high school is going to be built in 10 or 15 years? Think about the students. Think about how well they're going to handle this. Think about the families. I know from experience in the military schools, when you came back to the States and you went to a public school, you did not ingrain yourself. You stayed in your little persona and did what you had to do. You did not join in the school and that community because you were going to be leaving again. You don't want to foster this type of environment in Stafford County. You want to foster the family culture in the schools and the family support. Thank you.
Hello. Seems really low. I'm Ellen Vandeveer 416 Apricot Street, Garrisonville District. I spoke the other night at the board meeting, and I want to expand on one of the points I made. I feel that the entire Garrisonville district should remain untouched by this particular redistricting effort. Anyone who can read a simple map can see that there are no neighborhoods in the Garrisonville district that make sense to move. North Stafford, while I'm sure it's a fine school, is logistically farther away from all of us in the district than is Colonial Forge. There are neighborhoods in other districts who are literally right down the street from North Stafford who are not being seriously considered as viable options. So many of us in this room have brought up scenarios that make significantly more sense than the 7 options that were released last week. I know you all said you didn't want to move Stafford Lakes, but I'm just going to bring it up anyway. The most obvious to me being Stafford Lakes. You have 415 current students, and you all say it's too many kids to move, but the fact is you need to move 400 students out of Colonial Forge. That's what was said originally. If you're adamant about bringing kids into North Stafford High School, then you can look closer to home at the home of North Stafford High School. There are a few neighborhoods that literally drive twice the distance to get to Mountain View High School when North Stafford is right down 610. There are so many legitimate options. Embry Mill North, with its invisible and non-existent students, is an easy target here. Although the lots have been purchased, there are no residents yet to speak their case. You don't, for the moment, have to worry about any votes in the upcoming elections. It's an easy out. But in my opinion, what's really happening is you're essentially creating a small little pink North Stafford Island in the midst of a huge swath of yellow Colonial Forge. To me, the logic just isn't there. There's a lot of personal and emotional stories being told, not only tonight, but for the past month. And I'm not saying that people should not be emotional about their children and families moving schools, as that's the job of the parents to worry and speak their case. But it's your job as the board to consider these stories, but more than that, I feel it's your job to separate the emotional arguments from the rational and factual data that you have at your disposal. Thank you for your time.
Before the next 2 speakers, I'm going to do the next 5 names, if you all don't mind, and then we'll move to you all. So on my left, your right, Doug Leininger, Matt Lassell, Adriana Torres, Michael Mackey. So that would be on the left side, and I'm going to name 5 more for my right, your left. Mohammed Ghouri, Mark Novell, William Geisler, and Dennis Geisler. Thank you. Go ahead, thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Miller from Embry Mill, the Garrisonville District. You might think I've talked to Ellen because this might sound a little repetitive. So good evening and thank you for your time. I tend to ramble on during public speaking as I am typically nervous, so I'll stick to my notes and facts. Let's start with proximity. Embry Mill is 1.8 miles from Colonial Forge High School. It is more than double that to North Stafford High School. The opposite is true for other APUs, which are much closer to North Stafford High School but are currently attending Colonial Forge. There are also some current Colonial Forge neighborhoods that are much closer to Mountain View, closer than Embry Mill is to North Stafford. If any of the Garrisonville district is redistricted to North Stafford, then buses, parents, and brand new, inexperienced teenage drivers will either be driving extra miles via skinny, windy, dangerous roads, or driving through neighborhoods where children are walking to and from bus stops. If they choose to go down those windy back roads, they will pass Colonial Forge to get to North Stafford. Embry Mill Road and the Mine Road extension will not open for 2 to 4 years, and so these distance and danger factors will remain at least until then. If any of Embry Mill is the only redistricted from Garrisonville, an island will be created and these families will be traveling through other school attendance zones to get to school. And then they'll probably be redistricted again in the next 5 years or so. Also, let's keep in mind that Colonial Forge needs some relief immediately. So how is moving 215 potential students and a few rising ninth graders from other neighborhoods going to do any good for the next school year? Embry Mill South alone barely has any high schoolers today. For sure, Embry Mill South being moved will have very little impact on Colonial Forge capacity ever. Embry Mill has shown to attract families with younger children, which means those projected numbers are most likely too high anyways. I want to point out that all other neighborhoods that are part of the current options do not have these problems if redistricted. Their arguments are mainly emotional. With the choosing to redistrict based on emotion rather than logic, bus costs will increase significantly. This is money wasted being taken away from programs offered, the building of high school number 6, and paying our teachers appropriately. So please keep these facts in mind when you choose your redistricting decision on March 28th. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Heather Mitchell. I live at 30 Nugent Drive in Amy Clay in Rock Hill District. A little backstory. My husband is active duty Marine Corps. He's been in for 24 years. We just moved to Stafford a little over 2.5 years ago. We PCS from Okinawa. We originally rented a house in Stafford Lakes. We liked the school and the area so much. This is the first time in 24 years we've ever bought a house. We bought in Amy Clay because I was concerned at the time, because that's when the middle school was redistricting, that Stafford Lakes the high school would get redistricted. So I thought moving a little over 1.5 miles from the high school, we would be safe. Obviously, we're not. One of the reasons when we bought our house, my husband and I made the decision that the kids and I would stay here while he deploys. He's gone right now and has been gone since last April. We were tired of moving our kids. My son is in 8th grade. He's gone to 5 different schools. So we were thinking, wow, we actually found a home for him. At one of the meetings that I went to, because my question is, why is this being so rushed? And one of the answers I was given was because they didn't want to put more stress on the kids. Well, it's more stressful. My son is in 8th grade. He should have chosen his classes and visited his high school last month. This week, he was given his school slip to choose his classes to Colonial Forge. On some of the options, he might be going to either North Stafford or Mountain View. It's causing my son a lot of stress because he does not know where he's going to be going next year. And for me, too, is my other daughter, she is a junior this year at Colonial Forge. So next year she'll be a senior here, because she would be grandfathered in, but her little brother could either be here, North Stafford, or Mountain View. You have a unique population here because you do have a lot of active duty military, with a lot of them deploying. Me personally, it might be difficult to have 2 high school students going to 2 different high schools. It's just something to think about. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Hi. Members of the school board, Dr. Benson, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Doug Leininger. I live in the Berkshire subdivision, Rock Hill District. My wife and I, we actually have 5 kids, so we're extremely vested in the Stafford County schools. I know there's a lot of parents that want to make their voice heard tonight, so I wrote my thoughts down in an effort to be brief and to the point. First off, we moved here in 2013 from Woodbridge. At the time, our oldest child was getting ready to start kindergarten at Winding Creek. She's now in 3rd grade. We're a ways off from high school, obviously, but any parent will tell you that schools are the #1 priority in real estate decisions and property value when you have school-age children. At the previous February meeting, the school board stated that overcrowding has become an issue at Colonial Forge High School and now needs to be addressed. I don't think anyone with knowledge of this issue will disagree. The school board then went on to show PowerPoint slides and explain how they implement tried and true complex algorithms and formulas to project student population numbers for for the next 10 years across all the school levels and to a margin of error of about 1% or less in some instances. That was pretty impressive data, I had to admit. However, what's not impressive to me is that you held on to this data for so long, knowing that overcrowding is going to be an issue at Colonial Forge. Furthermore, instead of engaging with parents and community members years ago, you told the affected parents of Stafford County that the school board has no idea what to do and you have no answers for us 30 days prior to making your final decision. That's just unacceptable. That gives us as parents and members of the community no confidence in your ability to lead. From the outside looking in, it appears the school board already knows what they want to do, what they need to do, and that these meetings are nothing but a formality with no real impact or change on your decision. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Gori. I thank you for your service and give me the honor to speak. I'm from Autumn Ridge Subdivision, and just a few points I would like to make. Number one, the rules and regulations are always based on common sense, which I don't see that in this case. For example, cutting off a few neighborhoods which are less than 3 minutes away from Colonial Forge and keeping a few which are 15 to 20 minutes away from Forge, no common sense approach at all. Number two, I press upon the board to wait and reject any proposal for redistricting the settled neighborhood, and plan building a new school for the projected subdivisions with the funds being paid by the builders. I had a long 3-page comments, but I'm just gonna finish right now and asking to request from you guys that please do not ruin our children's future. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. I'm Michael McKee. I live in Berkshire, which puts me in the Rock Hill District. The last time I was here was the meeting we had right out there where we did some of the initial planning. I talked to several of you that night, especially you, Jamie, you, Patricia, and I just want to comment tonight that I'm disappointed in the short-sightedness of the options. When we had that meeting, one thing that several of those tables made perfectly clear was that none of the options expanded North Stafford High School District to the east. So I believe that the 7 options that have been presented for all of us is short-sighted because it just moves a little bit of kids around to meet the immediate need. It's putting a Band-Aid on a deep, deep cut. What is really needed, what would be a cure, is obviously a new school. Now that takes time to build, and that takes time to build up the money to do. But in the meantime, I think it's important for us and important for you as the board to look at the strategic plan. So where would that new school be, and how would you redistrict the kids, assuming you had that new school, and whatever you decide on this redistricting round should support that eventual decision. I would also like to add that I think you should push the Board of Supervisors to change the CIP. The CIP is a living document. It is not set in stone, and there is no reason that it can't be changed next month. And I would start planning now, if you need more money, to ask the voters to increase the tax rates. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is William Geisler. I live on Viking Lane in the Widewater District. I'm a very proud parent of a Brook Point High School student who is also in the Governor's School attending here at Colonial Forge High School. Now, this meeting and many others have been said that they're about redistricting, but at least on 2 other occasions, on the 20th of December at your work session, and also the 16th of February, your work session, there was significant discussion about the elimination of Governor's School here at Colonial Forge High School. I would ask that you do not consider that without a full vetting among the stakeholders of the Governor's School, specifically the parents and the students that are affected. The Governor's School provides a very valuable tool, especially for the gifted and talented students in your county, and I ask that you make no decisions regarding that without engaging those people affected. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Adriana Torres, and I live in Austin Ridge, District, Garrisonville. Since the middle school redistricting, we're experiencing tension between neighborhoods. And this is very, very sad. And right now, with this high school redistricting, there's nothing different. As a matter of fact, it's getting worse. And I can say it because if you go to social media and if you come to the meetings, many people is becoming more aggressive. And this is very scary for me as a new resident of Austin Ridge. I moved to Stafford County in 2003. I have owned 2 houses here. Both houses are being in the Garrisonville district with the same schools, Anthony Burns, Ronnie Thompson, and Colonial Forge. It's very stressful for me to think that my son, I know right now, Austin Ridge probably is not considered to be moved, but like you said before, it's not for sure that the options that you have right now are gonna be the ones that you're taking. There's many things in consideration for you, but it's my priority for me to keep my son with all these schools because he's a gifted student, he's excellent at math, his achievements are incredible, and I don't want him to move because I can see the opportunities that he's gonna have in all these schools, and I have studied both schools, North Stafford and Colonial Forge, and I can see in mathematics, Colonial Forge is 90% versus North Stafford, that is only 78%. So for me, it's a big difference because I want my son to be the best. He wants to be an engineer, and all the opportunities that he's gonna have, I think he has better options at Colonial. I wish the best for you guys. Hopefully, you can make the best decisions for the majority of the residents. I'm pretty sure not everybody's gonna be happy about it, but please consider the options that many people mention here, the ones that make sense. Don't move to established neighborhoods, thinking about neighborhoods that are not even here or people that haven't even moved to this area yet. Don't think about those people yet because they're not here. Think about the ones living here that are getting affected by this redistricting. Thank you so much and good luck.
Hello, Dennis Geisler, Governor's School student from the Widewater District from Brook Point. Absolutely no relation to the man in front of me in line. I'm just here, mostly to ask for more concrete information about what will happen to the Colonial Forge Commonwealth Governor's School site. A lot of what I have heard so far is rumors, hearsay, possiblies, maybes. There is a strong push for X, and it would just be nice to know if there are options being considered and what those options are that are being considered, because so far we do not have that much information. Not only that, I would personally, as a Governor's School student, 10th grader, like to ask that if there are options being considered, I would like to ask that the Colonial Forge site stay as it is with no changes, essentially. I'm basically just here to talk about this as a Brook Point person. I don't have a horse in the redistricting race, and I know there are a couple of other Brook Point people in the crowd. Don't think I can't see you. So, yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Before we go to our next speaker, I'm just going to name off some of the remaining names on the sheet, just so they can line up behind you. As you all may see, there are seats, if you don't want to stand while you're waiting, there are seats while you wait. So I just wanted to go through, for people on to my left, your right, Alex Saavedra, Shannon King, Stephanie Brown, and Michael Brown on the left. And on my right, Maria Arner, Michael Arner, and David Kervin, and Paul Tracy. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Mark Neville. I live in Liberty Knolls. I'm from the Garrisonville district, and I spoke at the Anthony Burns redistricting meeting as well. I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that I pointed out then, namely the cost savings for transportation, and also, of course, the fact that the house right across the street from the school. So the ease of transportation and the cost savings for the school district. So I just wanted to make sure that I reiterate and don't just assume that we're safe just because all the options look great. That's about it. That's about it. Thanks a lot.
Good evening. Can you hear me? My name is Maria Arner, and I live in the Berkshire subdivision APU 163 in the Rock Hill District. I have been a resident of Stafford County for over 22 years. In that time, the population of Stafford County has exploded, yet only 2 new high schools have been built. I understand that one of the options for consideration in the redistricting process is to dissolve the Colonial Forge Commonwealth Governor School site. My daughter graduated from CGS last year, my oldest son is a junior in the program, and my 8th grader submitted his application last month. My oldest son is looking forward to graduating from the program next year, and my youngest is excited to participate in the program if he is offered an opportunity. It would be a disservice to the students already in CGS and those that are expecting to attend this fall to dissolve the Colonial Forge site. If there isn't a site at Colonial Forge next year, my oldest will drop out of the program because he does not want to travel his senior year. I've spoken with the juniors in CGS, and only about 1/3 of the students would stick with the program next year if they have to travel. What a travesty for a group of students that has put 3 years of sweat into a program to not graduate from it. That being said, those students would remain at Forge, so they would not be making an impact on lowering numbers. Regarding rising freshmen, there are many students, I think there are 40 at Rodney Thompson Middle School alone, that are applying to CGS next year. Many of these students, including my own son, applied because it's a signature program based at his or her home school. These students have taken the time to fill out an application, asked teachers to take the time to write recommendations, and are preparing a portfolio to present at an interview. These students have taken the time and effort to apply to the CGS Forge site, and it would be very sad for them to have done all of the work just to find out at the last minute that the site no longer exists. I know one of the main concerns is classroom space. I volunteer at Colonial Forge every week and know for a fact that there are many classrooms that are empty throughout the day. Dissolving the CGS site at Colonial Forge will not significantly increase classroom space. The students should be the top priority in the redistricting process, and dissolving or moving the Colonial Forge CGS site is not in the best interest of any student. Please do not consider dissolving or moving the Colonial Forge CGS site. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jason Moore, and I live in Alder Drive, Embry Mills, and Garrisonville District.
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Jason Moore. We moved to Embry Mills back in August of last year, and it's unfortunate that Embry Mills is seen as a new community, which is rather unfair. A lot of us in that community are service members, and it's not to our own fault that we weren't able to set up roots in the community. We selected the community based on the schools in the area. We are 1.5 miles away from the school. There is no way, based on you guys' rules, that Embry Mills should be moved. We're a mile and a half away from the school. My PT test is longer. I've got a longer run for my PT test than my kids ride to school. So it's very unfair that my child and other kids in the community should be moved. I've got a 15-year-old, so within a couple of months, she should be, a year, driving. It makes, again, no sense for him to drive past the high school to another high school. It's going to be wintertime roads. I mean, the other kids who come from other schools, much further away. Whatever you guys want to do it, it's fine. I mean, and again, you guys make your rule on the 24th of March. Whatever the rule is going to be, we're all going to have to execute based on you guys' rule. But again, Embry Mills, we're a new community, seems like an easy target, totally unfair. I've been in the military 17 years. I was unable to set up roots 20 years in the community, 30 years in the community, but we did select the community. We select the community based on the schools, a mile and a half away. Common sense rule is we shouldn't have to move. That's it.
Hello, my name is Michael Lerner, and I'm from the Berkshire neighborhood in District Rock Hill. I currently am an 8th grader in Ronnie Thompson, and I would ask to not move my neighborhood for many reasons. The biggest reason is that almost all my friends go to Colonial Forge that I've been with since kindergarten. Why break up a friendship that has been for 9 years for high school? For 4 years, that's supposed to be some of the best times of my life. Also, why move an established community with families, with other families that are coming in that haven't even made friends with these people going to Colonial Forge? If the plan is to redistrict 400 kids over 4 years, why not move them? I've also been registering for classes for my high school, and I've realized that we turn in our course request before the redistricting decision is made, which possibly could make me have less of a chance of having to get the classes I've selected, and may have to reselect classes that the school I'm going to may not have, which Colonial Forge did have. And also, when I looked ahead at my high school career, I looked at signature programs. I did not have any desire to be a travel student, so I did not apply for any of those signature programs that were not offered at Forge. I personally think that the students are most impacted in this decision. So I think you should really take my points into consideration. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Alex Saavedra. I live in Embry Mills, Garrison District. I'd like to start off by saying this feels like a rushed decision. During the 16th February work session, there were still questions on the accuracy of students attending the high schools because no one was aware how many kids were traveling back and forth for these special programs. There's no answer on how the number of moving 400 students from Colonial Forge was calculated, and there was even a recommendation to do a site visit to verify if there are empty classrooms. These questions, about a month away from a decision, is not very reassuring. Secondly, I question the projected numbers for the second phase of Embry Mills. The current phase of Embry Mill has over 350 homes and has 46 students, 2% of the attendance at Colonial Forge. And by 2021, that number increases to 61, and that's after almost 8 years of building. However, the second phase of Embry Mill has no houses built, yet is being projected to have 215 students in 4 years. In that time frame, that second phase of Embry Mill is projected to have about 550 homes, which is just 100 homes more than the current phase of Embry Mills. Regarding the bus route, if Winding Creek Road access is not open for another 2 years and the Mine Road connection for another 3 to 4 years due to safety concerns with all the construction, what is the bus route going to look like? You must either drive past Colonial Forge or through Austin Ridge. And that's besides the point that you're telling the public that the Colonial Forge has a problem today, but 85% of your solutions includes kids that are not even here. Moving kids that are not here will not resolve the overcrowding issue for Colonial Forge or contribute to an increasing population at North Stafford. I think the resolution to divide Embry Mills, especially when Embry Mill is not a significant contributing factor to the overcrowding in the time frame that is being analyzed, makes sense. In the decision-making process, the public would like an unbiased decision. When it's clear by the responses from the public, they feel they're not getting that, especially when an option is proposed to move a neighborhood that will make an impact now is left off the table. I don't need to go into the details of what happened when a neighborhood was mentioned. We all watched it. I hope the residents of the district remember when this happened, when it's time to vote. With that said, the focus of this drill has been to move neighborhoods from Courthouse Road. I don't understand why any neighborhood off Courthouse Road should be moving from a high school whose address is 550 Courthouse Road. This decision to redistrict Colonial Fork should be delayed and changed to a high school redistricting effort looking at the whole county. It's been stated that Stafford High School has no room. So where are you guys gonna put the kids from Rappahannock Landing, who still has 500 units to build, Leland Station that has 200 units left to be built, and that's only 2 active projects from over 100 projects in Stafford. You only focus your brief on 20% of the active projects, specifically in the courthouse area, which only makes about 6% of the total projects. You don't think that the remaining 77% will impact the other high schools? It doesn't make sense to move neighborhoods today you will potentially move back tomorrow when you finally decide to build a new school. There are a few outliers that make sense to leave Colonial Forge, but don't move the neighborhoods around Courthouse Road.
My name is David Curvin. I'm a resident of Embry Mill. And you've probably seen me before. This is my 3rd time speaking. Actually, I just saw you this week. And I just wanted to once again exercise my right as a citizen of Stafford County just to try to get the board to take a look at some different solutions than what we have actually listed ahead. One of the things that really struck me the most is actually after I spoke Tuesday, afterwards we were talking in the hall, and there were several Autumn Ridge residents along with Embry Mill residents, and we're just really trying to put our heads around this whole circumstance. Obviously, we're emotional about it, and it's frustrating. But then you realize that the amount of sacrifice that people have undertook to really move into the neighborhoods that they did for the very reason of being in this school district and having this school as there. We talked about whether it was a new neighborhood and paying a lot of the extra costs, CDA fees and things like that, to help develop all that's around Embry Mill right now, or move into an older neighborhood in Autumn Ridge where you have to do lots of money and improvements up front to be able to have a good quality of life. But the overwhelming factor was everyone sacrificed to be able to be here and go to this school. And now I think it's just disingenuous to say that we're really going to look at redistricting without saying that we can not talk about Stafford Lakes and England Run. Those are high schools, or those are neighborhoods that drive so far to be able to come to a high school. I guess it would be better if we moved, to Route 17 to be able to guarantee that we go to Colonial Forge. That makes no sense. It's disingenuous. And I'd ask that we take a look at the whole proposal, because North Stafford, as I mentioned before, is not the right answer. It's not an imaging problem, it's a quality problem of that school. And it's not our job, and that we didn't subscribe to really fix that school. We paid the high premium. We all sacrificed in our way to be able to try to live in this school district, not even knowing there was a risk of something being taken away from us. The last thing I'd ask is this. Let's just look at a solution that doesn't have any political agenda, no gerrymandering at all. Let's actually take a look at the real issue, which is that we need to build another high school so that all those neighborhoods, such as Stafford Lakes, such as England Run and such, would have somewhere to go and still get a quality education without us having to rebuild a school that's not doing well right now. Thanks for listening.
Good evening. My name is Shannon King. I'm at 37 Kinross. My voting district is Rock Hill. First of all, let me say this is not my thing, but my kids are my thing. As an adult and parent, most life-affecting decisions are made after much thought, research, prayer, and reflection. Such was the case when my husband, our 2 sons, Ethan and Aiden, and I decided to move to Stafford County almost 8 years ago. Like most, we considered all of the obvious things regarding relocation, but to us, the 2 most important things to consider were our boys. How best to provide them a better quality of life and better quality of education. The answer to this was found the day we were introduced to our would-be home in Amy Clay. The property values, taxes were higher in this area because the homes were larger, they sat on more land, and they were in the school district that we felt was best for our children's academic success. We reconfigured our budget, took away a couple of vacations, but it made it happen. And we knew it was, in fact, the right choice, and it would be worth it in the end. Fast forward to today. My husband and I will probably have to tell our boys that our best laid plans for them might fail, that we might have actually failed them in our decisions. And in addition, our community and elected officials have failed them. Children should not be the casualties or bear the burden of the messes made by adults. Unfortunately, this is what is happening as you are now forced to consider the redistricting of Colonial Forge High School. The children are to be the biggest casualties of what is essentially failed planning and failed leadership. Bottom line today, what has brought us here is your failure, as well as those who came before you, to apply your own policies. Overdevelopment has been approved without providing the proper infrastructure. You've known for years that a new school is needed, and you have not acted accordingly or in the best interest of our children. Building a new school is the best sustainable response to overcrowding. The group of children at APU 163 have more or less been together from Winding Creek to Rodney Thompson and Colonial Forge. This familiar and successful cycle has been in place for years, and it's commonly referred to as peer continuity. And in my mind, it is a must. With this move, you're assuming that all of these APUs, all the little Johnnies and Janies, are the same. They're not. They will not transition equally. The idea of removing and displacing children into environments with people they are unfamiliar with is disruption. You should not be the advocates for disruption in a child's life. You're also submitting that all the schools in Stafford County are equal. Not so, or we would not be having such conflict over this particular redistricting. People more readily accept change because it's shiny and new, smells of fresh paint, has new landscaping, and it is ripe with the opportunity to start from scratch and establish the school's structure, environment, and fundamentals modeled after successful schools.
Your 3 minutes is up. I'm
Such
sorry.
as Forge.
If you could just leave, if you could leave your comments.
One small paragraph.
No, not a paragraph, I'm sorry. We did say 3 minutes. I'm not trying to cut you off. You can certainly give your comments to Ms. I did let you go for a little while. So if you could hand those to them, she will certainly distribute them to the board.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Paul Tracy. You heard from my wife. I have some things to add. One of the things is, I'm a retired warrant officer. I don't have a political bone in my body. So what I speak to you comes from the heart as well as from common sense. When we came to this area in 1986, we settled in Prince William County. This was closest to Fort Belvoir. My children went through elementary, middle school, and high school in Prince William County, which meant I took a year off and spent a year in Korea so they could stay here and continue with their peers. When we moved here in 1998, my youngest son had 1 semester left to go to high school. I had a choice, either move him down here to Stafford or let him finish at Prince William High and pay $1,000. I paid the $1,000. It was that important to him that he finish with his peers. That's the way it works. The other thing that I have to say is, and I've said it before, and you heard me talk about Davenport High School and how we split the high schools, and the people on the west side went to the west and the east side went to the east, and the north goes to the north, but they're all clustered around the school that they go to. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to have people come from, kids bust from Route 17 here when you have Autumn Ridge students that are less than 2 miles away stay here rather than go to Stafford, which is a little over 3 miles away, but neither one makes any sense over having kids from Stafford Lakes, Route 17, bust all the way up here every day. That's just ludicrous. Please, please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Before you get started, if there are other people who wish to speak who haven't signed in, if you want to start congregating off to the either side, if you would kind of, divide yourselves a little bit, that would be great so we can continue to alternate. Like I said, there are some seats near there, so you don't have to stand, but just wanted people to start to move before our next speaker starts to speak so that she doesn't get interrupted. So, like I said, feel free to alternate both sides. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. She's trying to get your attention.
Oh, yes. My usual thing that I forget. If you have not already signed in, that I don't have you on this sheet, which means I have already read your name, there are sheets, I believe, on either of the tables. If you have not signed in, if you would go ahead and sign in. After this speaker, we are going to take a quick 5-minute break, so I'm sorry for all of you who already got up. If you could, if you've already had a speaker card, let me get the two that have the speaker cards. And then if you two that already have the speaker cards come forward, then we'll take our 5-minute break. Okay? All right, but let me, go ahead, ma'am, I'm sorry.
No problem. My name is Stephanie Brown. I live at 126 Almond Drive in Garrisonville District, specifically in South Embry Mill. Good evening, members of the board. On the onset of the redistricting meetings, the school board posted the various reasons for using the consideration for rezoning families and neighborhoods to a new school. I'm here to stand with my neighbors and say that the residents of South Embry Mill should remain zoned to Colonial Forge High School District, even if Phase 2, North Embry Mill, is rezoned to North Stafford. South Embry Mill is saying no to option 7, displayed earlier by Dr. Benson. To piggyback on the statements made by my fellow neighbors, South Embry Mill is 1.8 miles from Forge and a 4-minute drive. In contrast, North Stafford is 5.2 miles and about a 13-minute drive in distance. The overall impact on families and students would be a major impact on the neighborhood as a whole. It would cause families and siblings to be sent to do 2 different high schools, and as a mother, I couldn't fathom the stress and undue burden it would and will cause between siblings, aside from typical sibling rivalry. With being a military child myself, I can empathize with the other kids and families as a whole. Rezoning South Embry Mill to North Stafford would be a Band-Aid approach on the approximate 100 students over the next 4 years based on the projections of Newland Communities, who is Embry Mill's developer. Our developer projects that an estimate of only 30% of the new homes will have students at the high school age over the next several years. Additionally, the developer statistics show that the majority of students will be elementary school age. Lastly, Embry Mill has been on the books to be developed for over 20 years. Embry Mill has been in the Colonial Forge High School zone since 1999. As we're sending fewer students to Colonial Forge than other neighborhoods from around the county. Thank you for your time and hearing my voice today. And as I said, I'm looking for South Embry Mill to remain at Colonial Forge High School and say no to option 7. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for taking my comments. Perception, it can be argued, is a... Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Eric Taylor. I'm from Park Ridge, and I'm a part of the North Nation. Do we have any others from North Nation here? So, perception, it could be argued, it is reality. My wife and I have gone through these meetings, and we've sat with the intelligent people, the educated people of Stafford County, continually say that and recognize that Colonial Forge is a better school. To me, that speaks to the inequity of the schools. If there is inequity in the schools, clearly there must be investment in that deficient school. So I'm here to ask you to level the playing field, since Colonial Forge is clearly above the greatness that is North Stafford now. Invest in the labs, invest in the bathrooms, invest in locker rooms, invest in technology so that the school can link up with the world, their cohorts, as they go through the educational process. Make North Stafford the gem of Stafford County. I understand that you guys don't have a lot of sway over the development in this county, but you gotta find a way to figure out how to get your hands around that. You built another school, it's like bandwidth, it's gonna be absorbed, and we're gonna be back in this maybe 10 or 15, 20 years down the road, but we're gonna be back in this discussion again. So control that. If you can work with the Board of Supervisors and seek relief from the state, from these laws, that would be a good thing. We did hear that, or I didn't hear, maybe I just didn't hear it, but it sounded like there's a few communities that, again, this is perception, so it's my reality, that are off the table right now for consideration. I would just implore the board to consider ensuring that as much as possible that students, as they come up from elementary school to middle school, that they aggregate and go to their high school, rather than, as some communities like ours, they come up, they split from their friends from elementary school, and then they meet back up. Aggregation, I think, is key. Lastly, I'll say that if a new high school is not able to be built on an accelerated schedule, then we must redistrict. Redistricting is not an option. There's overcrowding, so we must do that. Short of that, we need bond issues, raise taxes, and whatever we can do to construct a new high school.
Thank you. I think we had one more gentleman who had a card already. Is that, or we'll finish these three, and we'll take a 5-minute break and come back. All right? Good. Either one. You can start first, sir. Go ahead.
I don't have a
Card. Let me just get through the cards, and then we'll go on. So.
Hi, I'm Dana Brown. I live in the Rock Hill District, and I think I bring a little different perspective here. I have a child. I have 2 kids. I've been in Mountain View and North Stafford since 2006, and my last child is a freshman now at Mountain View. She travels. She's a homeschool at Mountain View, and she travels to North. I've been here for 16 years. I've seen a lot. And I would ask you in this redistricting to please redistrict by proximity. Send the kids to their closest schools. Don't make kids drive past another district school to get to that school. Like Margaret Brent. They live right across the street from Margaret Brent, but they go somewhere else. Don't do that. And I mentioned my kids travel. Well, why do I do that? Well, I feel like I have to. I think that North is a better school than Mountain View, program-wise. I think North gets a really bad rap. North Stafford has a governor's school. They have APPX, which is a ton of AP classes. They have engineering, biomed, auto body. Mountain View, my daughter's school, has cooking, cosmetology, medical transcription, and that program that I really don't like, IB, that sinks your GPA. If you're at Mountain View, you're going to starve for AP classes. North Stafford, they have something for everybody. And test score-wise, I know that the North Stafford CGS side has the best CGS scores in the county. They even beat Forge. So that's just something to think about. And in fact, North Stafford is kind of like a magnet school. All of our kids get to travel during the day to other schools. The biggest draw is North Stafford. More kids go into North Stafford than any other school in the county. And Mountain View, that's the school that has the most kids leaving to go somewhere else. Why is it like this? Well, I think we have a lot of program disparity. I think that someone hasn't been watching the principals very, closely, and they've been allowed to create highly customized schools, which has in effect privatized them. I think that's wrong. That's how we get into these parity problems and all these redistricting issues. Do the right thing by the kids. Was that my timer? Or? Okay. My oldest daughter graduated from Mountain View 2010 with a graduating class of 500. It was overcrowded. It was so bad they had to add extra lunch periods, then they had to shorten the lunch periods to fit them all in. There wasn't enough places to sit, they didn't have enough time to eat, the buses were overcrowded, they couldn't get the classes they wanted. It was a quality of life issue. So please do the right thing by Colonial Forge, redistrict. We don't need another high school right now. We have enough seats in the county. It's important that everybody knows that. They're just not at Forge. Forge is the one that's overcrowded. Yes, we have the seats. We are good until 2025, and I think that came from your people. So thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Chris Noderf. I'm from the Augustine North Subdivision, Rock Hill District. Just going to make 2 quick points. Number one, again, this 6th high school, it must be a priority for the county. Absolutely reprioritize the capitalization improvement program to get the 6th high school built as soon as possible. I did notice on all the options, this is somewhat a departure from the January 26th session that was held here. Recommendations, a third of the recommendations were for APU 159 to go to North Stafford High School. Main reason was they were looking for 275 students to go to North Stafford High School. APU 159, almost exactly to the number, is 275 students. And that option has not shown up in the number another 7 options. So I actually asked you to add that option as option number 8. And for those of you that aren't familiar, APU 159 is Austin Ridge.
Hello. My name is Robin Hawkins. I'm from Autumn Ridge, Garrisonville District. We moved here in 2000. My children have gone through Winding Creek, H.H. Pool, and now Colonial Forge, fingers crossed. I'm here tonight to advocate for the families that could be affected by the high school redistricting. I am here to emphasize on the siblings and keeping my children together while attending the same high school at the same time. I have a rising 12th grader and a rising 9th grader. I am advocating for the rising senior to finish her school career at the same high school she started, as well as having my rising freshman attend with her at the same school, since they will be attending high school at the same time. My daughter will be his transportation to and from school, as well as any school events or activities. My son has already started taking part in Colonial Forge programs, which we do not want to lose. I'm here making a plea for my children currently attending Colonial Forge to be grandfathered in to stay at Colonial Forge, with considerations for their siblings to attend Colonial Forge. My daughter and son have been looking forward to attending high school together, making family and school memories. If Autumn Ridge gets rezoned without any consideration for siblings, it will be devastating to the families. Families are supposed to support their schools and children, but I'm going to be asked to choose between my children. The rising freshman to attend Colonial Forge next year from Autumn Ridge is only 24 students, with 85 over the next 4 years. I am sure that number is much smaller for rising siblings providing their own transportation. I know you have a magic number that must be met, but I'm pleading for you to either keep Autumn Ridge out as an option or allow the smaller number of siblings not needing transportation to attend Colonial Forge with their older siblings. Also, Autumn Ridge is closer in proximity to Colonial Forge than North Stafford. I would stress that if there's no consideration for siblings, you'll be doing the following: obviously ripping families apart at home, forcing parents to choose one child over another, questioning which teacher conference do I attend, basically which child is more important, the added burden of transportation, forcing families to decide which school to support emotionally and financially, added expense, and losing existing school equity. I am speaking as a mom and as an Autumn Ridge resident, and pleading for Autumn Ridge and established Colonial Forge neighborhood to not be an option for redistricting. Please say no to options 1 and 3. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Caroline Grant, and I live in Embry Mill. I'm with the Garrisonville District. And I'm here tonight united with my neighbors and asking you to please considering not rezoning Embry Mill. Leave us with Colonial Forge. Again, you've heard this many times. It's 1.8 miles from my front door to Colonial Forge High School. Proximity to Winding Creek Elementary, H.H. Pool, and Colonial Forge was the primary reason that my family bought in Embry Mill. My family's safety is paramount, and we don't want to almost triple our commute time if our high school is moved to North Stafford. Embry Mill Road and Mine Road are not opening anytime soon. We will have to drive Austin Ridge and through Hampton Oaks to get to North Stafford, or we would have to come out the other side of our neighborhood and drive right in front of Colonial Forge to get to North Stafford. Either way, travel and commute times go up, busing costs go up, and safety becomes an issue. I'm transferred here from Mississippi in September. My house hunting trip was in August, and on that trip I made a phone call to the school board. I knew redistricting has been an issue for a long time and happens very frequently. I knew Shelton Woods had been rezoned, and my question to the person who answered the phone was, is there anything on the agenda for this year? This is the neighborhood that I'm looking to buy in. And I was told no, that there was nothing on the agenda, and that was in August. I signed and closed on my house in September, the 3rd week, and you can imagine my dismay when just 2 short months later, redistricting is now an issue. And when I then go to meetings and read newspaper articles, it is my neighborhood, Embry Mill, that appears to be vilified as if we have single-handedly overcrowded Colonial Forge in the few short years that, since we've been created. Forge is crowded now, and Embry Mill, my neighborhood, is responsible for 46 students there. This overcrowding has been a long time in the making. Rushing this redistricting effort has put my new neighborhood at a disadvantage from the start. The majority of people in my neighborhood are still surviving the season of moving. I've just figured out the grocery aisles at our local Walmart. I'm settling in, still unpacking boxes, and I don't know all my neighbors. But this redistricting effort has pitted my neighborhood, where I barely know my neighbors, against much larger, established neighborhoods who have successfully battled redistricting efforts in the past. I feel like it's an unfair situation to new neighborhoods and small neighborhoods because our voices are not as strong, and I don't think we're always being heard and giving the same. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. We're just not being heard. I feel like we haven't had the same opportunities to be heard. I would ask you to consider proximity, contiguous school attendance areas, walking distance, and overall impact on families and students, which all support Embry Mill remaining at Colonial Forge. We're new, but in the end, we will be the largest, if not one of the largest neighborhoods, and everyone in my neighborhood is committed to this community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Adela Bertoldi, and I am in the Rock Hill District. I'm in the Augustine North community. I'm also the vice president of our HOA, and while I'm not here in official capacity and I'm here as a parent, I can assure you that Augustine North, who has been in this community for an extremely long period of time and has always been here, been districted to this high school, is not for redistricting. Now, I'm a reasonable person, and I think from what I hear here, everybody here is a reasonable person. We understand that you have a very difficult job, and I honestly do not envy your position because there is not going to be a right answer, and there's always going to be somebody who's going to be affected and they're going to be unhappy. And I understand that. And if I ended up being redistricted because something actually made sense with respect to redistricting and where, kids are going to be going, I would say fine. Would I be disappointed? Sure. However, when you have students that are in South Stafford, such as Stafford Lakes, where you have 400 students that you already bust them up here. You already do that. And I'm hearing the arguments of, well, you know, there's too many students to redistrict in one place. Well, you're already districting 400. And to me, logic says that it's easier to redistrict 400 students from one location and put them where you need to go than having, with all the options, you have 8 different schools and they're all going in 18 different directions. That does not seem to be easier than moving one area. They're not even being considered. And I do take exception to that. And I can tell you that my neighborhood takes exception to that because I have heard from my neighbors who do take exception to that. And I want to make sure that Augustine North is represented here and that we are not happy with that. I mean, and I don't want to belabor everybody because I think everyone's done a beautiful job at making their points heard tonight. I just ask that, you know, with respect to that issue, that you consider other options with respect to South Stafford. Also, students who are already existing, that have parents, that have come here tonight, not ones in the future. Yes, we have development. Yes, we project families, but their kids aren't here yet. And we also don't know who these imaginary families, what age their children are. We don't know that. And to make room for them, to move us, for them to make it a better selling point for the houses, I take exception to that too. And I just want to put that on the record and make that known. Thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name's Jeff Kratowitz. I'm a resident of Arbor Glen and assigned to the Rock Hill District, and my children are currently zoned for Colonial Forge. At the beginning of this meeting, the chairman made a comment that Stafford County Schools is a great school district. With all due respect, Madam Chairman, it is not. We have certain excellent schools, but many neglected schools. That is precisely why this is so emotional, heated, and difficult. If North Stafford, Brook Point, and South Stafford were viewed as such great schools, does anyone think this would be a fight over who goes and who stays? On a per capita basis, Stafford is the 5th richest county in Virginia and 9th richest county in the nation, yet we have the lowest paid teachers in the area. Stafford, in an audit, finds a multi-million-dollar account, $8.3 million, that no one claims ownership of, except the blame's put on a now deceased employee of the county school district. And that situation remains unresolved. As was angrily raised in the Rodney Thompson meeting with Ms. Healy, we have members of this board who have conflicts of interest with the developers. And in my opinion, that's the heart of the problem here. This problem is in many respects the result of Colonial Forge having been set up as the rich person's high school in Stafford County, while new high-priced developments are funneled into it to the benefit of the developers, and older established neighborhoods are forced into the lower-tier high schools. It is nearly criminal that in this overall wealthy county, we have such disparity between the schools. I am very disappointed that the board is not answering questions tonight. Right now, they are scheduled to make the final vote on this redistricting plan on the 14th of this month. I don't need a therapy session. That's not why I came here tonight. I came here tonight to have answers, to get answers to my questions. Why no public posting of a final plan before the final vote? You're taking our comments tonight. I think we want a comment period after we know what the plan is. Why is the board doing everything it can to conceal its final plan and present to the public only after it is a done deal? Why no time for public comment And will one of the 7 options on the website be the only choices, or could the board do something completely unannounced? These are just some of the questions I would have liked to have seen answered.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Linda Light, and I'm Garrisonville District, and I'm in Autumn Ridge Subdivision. And I'm first going to start off saying this is not my gift. I'm only coming up here for my daughter, who is a rising 9th grader, and to speak on behalf of my neighborhood. I have been in Autumn Ridge for 18 years, and I have a senior at Colonial Forge, which is a place I volunteer. I've lived in my neighborhood for 18 years, and I have a daughter who is very, very excited to join her peers and her sister's friends and her community and everything that she's known since a little girl. We've had the opportunity to move out of the neighborhood, but we've stayed because we love our neighborhood, we love Forge. I'm not up here to downgrade any school, any person, because I don't feel like that's right. I feel like we do all have good schools. We have all of our schools are good in the county. And I feel like it's where you live that what makes the community. And I just want to speak because we have such a small number, and we've been there for so long, and we have, I think, maybe 25 rising high schoolers and maybe 70-some over the course of 4 years. And I just don't feel like that we're making that big of a dent to be able to take us out of Forge when we've been there since the very beginning. We are Forge. It's our family, it's our home, and it's all our kids have ever known. So again, I'm not up here to degrade anyone or talk down to anyone. I didn't prepare anything. I just felt like that if I didn't speak for my daughter, then I would regret it. So I just ask you, actually, I beg you to reconsider Autumn Ridge. So thank you.
My name's Amy Lubinsky. I live in Water Edge Subdivision. Sorry, this isn't my thing. Water Edge Subdivision, Heartwood District. I wasn't prepared to speak tonight because it's not my thing, but nobody here has represented our area. In every single option given, we are going to Mountain View. I currently have a 9th grader at Forge, a 6th grader, a 5th, and a 3rd grader. And I really urge you guys to please, please make sure this is the right thing to do at the time, because I don't want to have to go through this again with my 6th grader and my 5th and my 3rd. My 9th grader, let me give you a background. We're a military family. We moved here this last summer. And my 9th grader has a hard time meeting people, but he has settled into Forge so well and is exceeding here. I cannot move him, but I can't rely that I'm going to be able to drive him every day to school. Right now, the options you have, 400 students from Stafford Lakes will be driving right by my house every single day, every day. And how do I tell my son he can't go to the school he likes with all of his friends because the bus doesn't stop right in front of our house now, even though it's literally like 400 feet from my door, not even. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. I urge you to please look at solutions from busing to the new homeschool to Forge for those grandfather students. You'd probably need 1 bus. There are not even 10 kids in my subdivision right now. So it's such a small number that it shouldn't make a difference. Our neighborhood, again, is really small. It doesn't have the political influence that other neighborhoods have. We feel that we have been forgotten, and we have no option at all since all 7 options completely move us to a different school. If we let our son continue at Colonial Forge and be grandfathered in, his brother, who will be a freshman when he is a senior, will not be allowed to go to the same school. This puts added strain on our family. We feel we have to choose between our kids. By letting our oldest stay where he is invested and thriving, we are cutting ties between him and his younger brother and his other siblings. Please consider grandfathering in the siblings and the younger siblings as well, because once I have a freshman, I will have another freshman a year later, which will again put strain on us. This seems like a temporary Band-Aid for the county and will have to be done again in a couple years. Again, it's something I'm worried about. I understand you want to disrupt as little amount of students as possible, but I feel that if you take the time another year and redistrict the entire population, not just Colonial Forge, you might be able to not have to redistrict again for several years. Being a military family, we've moved so many times. Please don't make me have to decide if my student has to move again. And I did contact Mountain View High School. My son has signed up for AP classes next year, and they do not offer them at Mountain View High School. So his only option is Colonial Forge right now. So again, strain on my family with no bus. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Mendoza. I live in Austin Ridge. Just a couple of comments in regards to how everybody feels here, regardless of what community they come from. Most of us are investing or have invested or going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly millions of dollars on our property. So obviously all of us have a stake in this, and regardless of where you come from, you know, obviously it's going to affect everybody. When I went to high school, I lived about 4 miles from school. I didn't have the convenience of riding the bus and walk back and forth a total of 8 miles every day. Now my children enjoy the convenience of the bus stopping almost in front of our house. So it's hard for me to appreciate the difference between 1.8 miles and 5 miles. Really doesn't make a difference to me. Having said that, I may not give my kids enough credit for adjusting to change, a trait that they must have in order to adapt to this ever-changing world. I encourage them not only to consider change, but to expect it. I attended the last meeting at Anthony Burns Elementary School with my daughters, who are currently in Ron D. Thompson Middle School. When my daughter asked, are the kids from North Stafford High School, are they not as smart as we are? And of course I said, absolutely not. I believe that if a child has a want and is given the support, that they can do wonders regardless of the school they go to. Why is it anyway the schools have different curriculums? That's why I can't figure out. I went to the 8th grade orientation, and this school has this, that school has this school has that. I think if that were all even across the board, there'd probably be a little bit resentment as far as sending their children to another school. That's just one part of the puzzle. They should be on even keel. I'm a practical man and realize with the larger community comes change. It's just simple. It gets larger, you can't keep it in the same parameters as before because more people are moving in. I'm not sure how this will work out for us, but I can best be sure that I will guide my children through this dilemma in preparation for many to come. That's it. Thank you.
I just want to start by saying thank you guys for all that you're doing. It is a thankless job. And I want to second and say thank you to all of you guys for coming and showing up and partaking in our community to try to make it better. It's great that every one of us are taking a time to make our voices heard and to support our community, because in the end, that's what it's about. It's about Stafford County and making it better. That being said, we do have a problem. We have a massive growth problem, and as a result of that, we don't have the infrastructure in place. Everyone knows that, and this isn't the place for that, but it has a trickle-down effect, and it's continuing to push downward. And we continue to do, since I've moved here, this is the second redistricting that I've been a part of, and we continue to move and move and move and Band-Aid. One of the things that I would ask, and I have not heard it spoken, is that we consider, instead of just making a school that will house 2,000 students or 700 students, let's do what some of other counties have done, and let's build a giant school so that it can support the growth that our community continues to build and build and build, right? Like go look up at Fairfax County, Robinson, Lake Braddock, they're huge high schools, 5,000, 8,000 students. A friend of mine just moved up from Houston, and we were talking about this this issue. And he said, you know, it's interesting because in Houston, they just build their schools to house 4,000 students, not 2,000. So if we overbuild our next high school, and that's what I'm asking you guys to think about, overbuild the size of our next high school so that we don't turn around and have to do this and have to start planning at the next high school before we even put the students in the new high school 6 or whatever we're calling it. My name is Brett Downs. I'm from Autumn Ridge. I do thank you guys for your time, and please consider keeping Autumn Ridge in Colonial Forge. It's very imperative to a good community for kids to know where they're going, to have that trickle down, to build that relationship, to start attending the sporting events, start attending the musical events and the chorus, and be able to listen to them, and getting to know what the school is about so that they can take pride before they ever get there. I'm seeing that. I've been a part of that. And my kids are already anxious. We continue to go to the volleyball, the basketball, the football. We've gone to the choir performances here at Colonial Forge because that is our high school. Please keep us there. Allow us to build those strong relationships and stop pitting us community to community against each other so that we're trying to put one community over another. We are all Stafford, and we all deserve to have great schools. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Johnson. I'm pretty sure I'm in the Rock Hill District. I live across from North Stafford in Eastern View. I just want to remind you guys that what's most important to me, obviously my kids will continue to walk to North Stafford, is to do what's best for the county and to fix the disparity in schools. From what I can tell, the programming at North Stafford's great. The parents in my neighborhood love it. The high schoolers all seem happy with it. There's a ton of advanced programming options for them. Performance is a little lower. The SOL scores are a little lower. The article in the Freelance Star a couple weeks ago talked about the income performance gap, and I think that's some of what's going on. And so some of the redistricting, I think, should take into consideration adjusting some of that. And I don't know if you guys saw, but the average income for a Colonial Forge family was $121,000, North Stafford $79,000. It's more than 50% more. That's going to affect parental involvement, booster-thons, fundraising, PTO. It's going to affect the schools. It's just going to. I understand that some people pay more for their house, so they pay more in taxes, so they think they deserve better schools. The way I understand our public schools is we all pay the same tax rate. I chose to have an old house that's kind of falling apart. It's a little smaller because that's what we can afford, but my kids still deserve a good education, period. I'd like to see not a Band-Aid put on this, but some of the redistricting fixed at a big level, at a macro level. My kids go to North Stafford, although they live right across the street. Anything west of me doesn't. That's strange. It's very strange. They talk about peer continuity in my kids' neighborhood, and I live in a tiny little neighborhood with 4 streets. They're the only kids that go to their elementary, their middle, and their high school. There's no continuity. And people in my neighborhood are fed up with it. I've emailed you guys several times. I haven't heard back. The peer continuity has to be considered. These poor kids that go to elementary and middle with one group of kids, and then high school, which is probably some of the toughest time in their lives, are forced to split off. That's a hard transition. So I think the county needs fixed. When I grew up, I was in Prince William County until high school, and you'd have 4 elementary schools. These 2 would go to this middle, these 2 would go to this middle. Then these 2 middle schools would go to this high school. You kind of worked up together. There's none of that here. There's Parkridge. There's neighborhoods that are just completely separated. I just would like to see you guys take time to look at not only the options that you've laid out, but look at fixing the problem as a whole, so we're not back here in a couple of years. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Rice, and I live in the Autumn Ridge area. I hope you can hear me. I know I've spoken many times. I've come to every one of your meetings, and most of the time I've been very emotional because this is all a new thing to me. And the whole reason we moved to Stafford was because my oldest daughter that I was we were transferring and buying a house, and this was going to be our permanent location with my husband retiring. She picked that school. And now I have another daughter there, and I have my son coming up, who will be going, hopefully, to Colonial Forge. I guess I feel like this was the move that I let the children have a say in, have them go online, research, look at all the different things, from the color of the school to the mascot of the school to the programs that it offered. My middle child was looking at Chinese. just all of the different programs. There's a lot more involved than just looking at the rating of the school. Now, I understand, I'm looking at the options. Tell you the truth, I didn't like any of the options. And some of them didn't even include Autumn Ridge. And I still didn't like the options because if you look at the numbers, I didn't see any of the schools really being alleviated from the overpopulated number percentages in 2021, especially Mountain View. It seemed like Mountain View was staying high on all of them. So I don't understand what you're looking for, if it's really just a short-term fix, or if you're truly looking at the long-term fix. When I see you slivering out little pieces and leaving a large yellow slice here and a little piece of yellow here and this here, another yellow down at the bottom, and then you look at and I understand that some of the area is very rural, it's widened, but has anyone stopped, and since we haven't actually heard that from you, have you looked at the entire county? When a brand new school opens, I can understand a redistricting, feeding that school, getting the numbers up. But this is not because of a new school opening. So to change a whole neighborhood, especially Autumn Ridge, that have children that have been still attending, siblings that want to go, that have been there from the very beginning. It's a small number, won't make a huge impact, but I understand every number counts. And then as I was going to say the same thing she said, when you look at Mountain View being bucked, those children who are going to Mountain View being right next to North Stafford, that makes no sense. But we don't know the APUs to any of those areas. We only know the APUs to the Colonial Forge area. So we can't take that into account. But when you look at the map, it makes no sense. When you hear a community is living within walking distance to a school, but yet is being bused to another school, you're right. How does that strengthen the neighborhood? How does it strengthen the community? Cutting us out, I don't want to see anybody cut out. I would just like to see it re-looked at, and then when you come up with a decision, we can all understand what was behind it, not just seeing if the numbers fit. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Emily Cartier. I'm in Stafford Lakes, so that's the Heartwood district. I heard a lot about Stafford Lakes, and a lot of people are upset that right now that we're not on one of the options. I would just say that any of the other options to bus us to North Stafford, to Mountain View, would extend our commute even further. I mean, we are South Stafford. We do need a high school down there. We can't go to Stafford High School because it's at capacity. But to bus us even further, I thought that was ridiculous that somebody said, well, they're already traveling far, let's make them travel further. That's why I'm up here. I just wanted to be that voice for Stafford Lakes to say, look, we're in Colonial Forge. I know we travel a long distance, but there's no other option for us that isn't even further. On another note, I have my daughter, she is a junior this year at Colonial Forge, but we choose to bus her half the day to North Stafford because of the programs there. So I don't have any problem with the other schools. I would suggest that your STAT programs and things like that in the last few years, she's a junior, so we've gone through it for 3 years. I feel like they're trying to minimize that, and I think that the opposite should happen. This year we got notices that unless they're having a B or better, that they're going to be out of the program, and I think that's the wrong attitude to have in Stafford. I think the biomedical, the engineering, those are all great programs that we should actually be promoting and growing. So that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Dan Murphy. I live in Emory Mills, APU 166. I have a rising senior and a rising freshman next year. Just like to make a couple of points to you. The first is the grandfather policy. You talk about not splitting neighborhoods, but what you need to talk about is not splitting families, period. That's the key right there. Safety. Students should have travel for all intents and purposes to the school closest to them in accordance with your policy 1403. Having students be bused or drive through neighborhoods going opposite directions, like two ships passing the night, are not only not cost effective in busing, but it's a safety issue. We all like to believe that our students are the best new drivers on the road, but per the statistics, it's not the case. And per the National Highway Safety Board, per mile, their likelihood of being in a serious accident go up exponentially. The shortest distance possible for students that would be driving is a credible factor in any course of action planned by the board. I do not support any course of action in redistricting Embry Mill, as I only live 1.7 miles door to door from the school from my house. There is some attitude in the community about we were here first in established neighborhoods and like that. I know Embry Mill is being labeled as having caused this problem, but that's not actually the case. This comes from the by right laws that are the state law of the state of Virginia and is being affected in the south part of Stafford County. I know a lot of people in Embry Mill are being labeled as outsiders, but that's also not the case. I've lived here before, many of my neighbors have lived here before, or moved from within Stafford to live in this neighborhood. The final problem I have is the problem itself. I'm a professional planner by trade. It's what I do. We plan. When we plan short and long range plans together to gain unified action and to ensure that our goals actually go on longer than a few years and we have a long-term effect. We define the problem, we create a desired end state, and then we create intermediate objectives to actually reach that end state. A key in generating multiple courses of action when we actually do that is to make sure that they're actually distinct from one another, which I don't believe you've done here with the 7 courses of action that you actually have. There are many other processes out there that could work for our current problem, but my concern is I don't really feel that there is a process, and by all appearances, that's what it seems to be. In closing, what we need is a plan that has both short and long-term solutions in them and that is clearly defined. You and the board have the opportunity here to put in place a long-term improvement plan for the district that could be your legacy for Stafford County. To do this, though, we need to slow down, take a step back, think critically about what the problem actually is, and see it for what it actually is. If you try to rush this, you run the risk of actually missing critical inputs and other factors that make the system work, and we could be back here in another year or two doing the same exact thing. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Holly Feliciano from 14 Oleander Drive in the Aquia District. Since I'm from the Aquia District, I do not have a dog in this fight. However, because this is my community, I have been following the latest discussions closely. As an outsider and a person in the community whose children are not affected this go-around, I sincerely hope the school board makes a good decision. We need to fill the usable spaces in the high schools and relieve any overcrowding. By making good decisions, the school board and the board of supervisors can move forward to getting high school number 6 built, since it most certainly will be needed. However, the right decisions need to be made now to ensure that will happen. Unfortunately, my fear is the right decision will not be made. My children attend Stafford Middle School, who we all know was redistricted recently. The board's decision to listen to bigger neighborhoods instead of doing what was right has impacted the children at Stafford Middle. Sending children down the 610 corridor was never the right decision, and I have to believe the board knows this deep down. When traffic is bad, the children arrive to school sometimes at 9 or 10 o'clock. My children's classes do not start on time when this happens, all because the board decided to send small neighborhoods that didn't complain and listen to the bigger neighborhoods instead. But enough about middle school. My point is the board needs to do what's right. I've been appalled at what people have been saying about some of our neighborhood schools. When you live in a community that is growing at the rate we have, redistricting is a part of life, and to think otherwise is naive. People are going to have to switch schools. Also, to say that some of our schools are inferior is just ridiculous and awful. I would hope some of these people would become part of the solution instead of creating bigger problems and being big bullies. The board also needs to not listen to people's negative comments about our schools. In turn, every effort needs to be made to make all of our schools equal. Parity. Make the right decision. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Gabrielle Wortman, and I'm from Stafford Lakes. I'd just like to say that in considering all the redistricting options, I think the county needs to be looked at as a whole. I keep hearing comments about Stafford Lakes, well, you should just move them, you should just move them. I understand that. We do drive pretty far to get here, but I just feel like the whole county needs to be looked at, not just certain neighborhoods or certain districts. I also feel that we are in desperate need of a high school off of 17. We lived here since '99. Initially, we were districted for Stafford, and I think sometime in the early 2000s we've been at Forge. So it's easy for people to say, which I understand, you know, just move them. It's a great number, but also take into consideration the transportation cost to get there. And the other thing is, hopefully we will get a high school number 6 somewhere in southern Stafford on the Route 17 corridor, and we would be redistricted again. So also please take that into consideration. Thank you.
My name is Leslie Sasser, and I live in Paradise Estates. Don't ask me what district I'm in because I never paid attention. My daughter is a sophomore here at Colonial Forge. She's not being affected by this. However, I hear so many people down North Stafford, they down South Stafford, they down Brook Point. But you know what, Colonial Forge? Yeah, Colonial Forge is the highest ranked school in Stafford County currently. But was Colonial Forge the highest ranked school before it came about? Which one was? You have to think about the past, North Stafford. You have to think about the past, Brook Point. You have to think about the past, South Stafford. When High School 6 comes about, where's Colonial Forge going to be? It's not going to be ranked number 1 anymore. I heard a gentleman say that all the money's being funneled into Colonial Forge. Yeah, because Colonial Forge is one of the newest, most central position schools there is. Once High School 6 comes, all that money's going to get shifted to High School 6. Colonial Forge is going to be at the exact same status as what North Stafford, South Stafford, and Brook Point is. There is one option that not a single person in this room has pointed out until now, and that's going to be me. There is one area and one school that is not included in any of this redistricting, and that's Brook Point. That is east of 95. I live east of 95. When all of this started, I was told my daughter was going to be redistricted to Brook Point. Do I want her going to Brook Point? No, because she's had a hard life as it is. I like her being here at Colonial Forge, but at the same time, going to a new school is going to give her an option to meet new people. It's going to broaden her people to hang out with during the summer, to go to college with, to join the Marine Corps with, to continue JROTC with. All it does is widen their options, and nobody stops to think about that. Instead of building High School 6 right now, why not worry about expanding the schools that we have to accommodate until we need something? So many people say, hey, increase the taxes so we can afford to build School 6. All right, and how many of those people are low-income families that have a hard time managing right now to support their family? They don't have these $10,000 cars and these $100,000 homes. People that live in the little quaint neighborhoods back in the back that are told is the drug neighborhoods of the county. I live in one of those, but you know what? My family is one of the most richest families in the world. Why? Because we have a family and we have love.
Hello. First, I want to say thank you to the board for all that you're doing for us here in the county. My name is Deron Vinson. I live at 20 Vanberg Court in Amy Clay. That's part of the Rock Hill District. And I'm standing here tonight because my son, I'm gonna ask my son to stand up. He may not look like it, you may think that this shouldn't be an issue, but he's rising, going from the 8th grade to the 9th grade. And we're zoned for Colonial Forge. Monday night, he was recognized at the Maryland House of Senate and the House of Delegates for his participation with Team Maryland football team who won the national championship in December. All his teammates on that team are all-stars from Maryland, Virginia, and from Delaware. Most of those kids on that team are going to private schools, have been offered scholarships to go to private schools. My son has been offered 7 scholarships for private schools. Monday night, when he was with his team, and he was with Coach DJ Durkin from the University of Maryland, when they were asking what high schools the kids were going to, the kids were saying, I'm going to Gonzaga, I'm going to DeMatha, I'm going to St. John. My son has been offered those same scholarships, those same opportunities. He said, I'm going to Colonial Forge. He has given up over $400,000 worth of scholarship because he wants to go to Colonial Forge. What's in his heart His cousin went to Forge, played football at Forge. He's an excellent student, and he really loves Colonial Forge. He is very invested in what's going on in these meetings and wanting to be here because of the emotional ties he has to Colonial Forge. And not to mention the fact, like I said, he's given up a whole lot. He's given up opportunity because he realizes the opportunity he has here in Stafford County and at Colonial Forge. I just ask you on his behalf to think about the kids, the numbers that are already here, and not the kids who are projected to be here. Think about the families that are here, his friends that he's grown up with, being the reason why he wants to go here at Forge and play football here. And also the fact that he feels like he's going to bring a state championship to Colonial Forge. That's been a dream of his. And if you look at him, 6'1", 210, 14 years old, just turned 14. That's a goal that he has in his heart. And it's breaking his heart to see that he may not be able to do that here at Colonial Forge. So just take that into consideration, the real people and how they really feel. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Candice Larma, and I'm from Embry Mill. I'm here, I'm from the islands, and one of the things we say down there is that common sense is sometimes not all that common, and it was around a long time before book sense was ever here. And when I look at the options that were presented, I see Stafford Lakes is coming a huge distance away, where you have a lot of neighborhoods in the, and I'm basically reiterating a lot of that was said before. You have a lot of neighborhoods that are much closer in the Garrisonville district that you're asking to move. Stafford Lakes, the size alone, by moving all that, would solve the problem with the Old Ridger kids. Embry Mill, for instance, was, we have like less than 50 kids right now. The majority of the other kids are very young. I mean, to the point where a developer went and put in parks and swings, because we have a lot more toddlers than kids that are gonna be in high school in the next 4 or 5 years. And just in proximity alone to North Stafford, Stafford Lakes, it's much closer to North Stafford. I basically feel that the Garrisonville district should be kept together and not split up. And I currently have a stepdaughter who started Colonial Forge. She's a senior right now. And the whole thing is you don't want to split up communities, but even though I'm Embry Mill, Austin Ridge is right next to me, and then all the other neighborhoods on Mine Road, we're all a community. My stepdaughter, she goes, these are her friends, she hangs out with them, they come to Embry Mill, they walk around and all that kind of stuff. And yet, it's kind of like now, we kind of have a war with Austin Ridge, because, you know, we're fighting among each other who gets to stay and who was here first and all this nonsense. But yet again, the goal is to not split up communities. And I guess I just want to reiterate again, I kind of hope that common sense prevails in making this decision. And one of the things you consider is, you know, not splitting up communities. Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. Benson, staff, thanks for opening this opportunity for us to come up and talk. And I'd like to touch about 3 points, and I'll try to be brief because some of my points have already been touched upon. The 3 points are some unknowns, developmental focus, and continuity of decisions. From unknown, and I think the audience would agree, we've heard some points out here about some numbers, and we've got some options on the table, but I'm not sure we have all the data. Whether it's students going from one school to the next, we also have, at least from my observation, 2 main roads under construction. You've got Courthouse and 610. we know at this point, some of those back windy roads are really not options for buses from the traffic we already deal with. So what can we expect as those roads, or when will they be finished? How will that impact us? So I'm not sure we have all the decision and all the information to make a decision. Second point, from a developmental focus, several people have gotten up here and spoken about the continuity of piers. And this kind of leads into my third point. What was the decision cycle? What were the major impacts on the decision cycle for the redistricting of the schools a couple of years ago? Was the feeder school thought part of that decision? If so, how does it apply now? So I'm concerned that maybe we're putting the cart before the horse with respect to all the details. And with any plan, you're not going to have all the information. I would agree with you there. But at some point, you got to draw the line in the sand and make those decisions. But at least from the options that have been presented, I think there's some holes that really need to be considered. Thank you.
Are there any other, is there anybody else who wishes to address the board this evening? If not, please know that you can certainly submit anything written. I know you all already know this. It can come to our clerk. She can distribute to the board. You can also send it to individual members. I would like to make the announcement on March 14th, the night of our next meeting. We will be having a work session beginning, does 5:30 work for the board? Is 5:30? As opposed to 5, I know 5 is very difficult. Okay, 5. Okay, all right. I wanted to check because I know many times the 5:30 is difficult. So that's, yes, no, every meeting that we have is always open. Okay, so 5 o'clock seems to be the consensus that we will be having a work session. This will be probably part of the discussion. There may be other things, so please send items to our clerk. And again, I thank you all very much for coming. It's a little distressing to keep hearing all the sirens out there, so everyone please drive home safely this evening, and I'm sure we'll continue. Thank you. What's the wind? Okay. Thank you.